The one Bible verse that leaves no middle ground. John 5:46, KJV. For had ye believed Moses, ye would have believed me, for he wrote of me. Jesus does not say Moses wrote about God the Father. Jesus does not say Moses wrote about the Messiah in general. Jesus explicitly says, Moses wrote of me. So now comes the unavoidable dilemma. If Moses wrote about Jesus, then Jesus is God, or he is a liar. Every Jew, every rabbi, every skeptic knows Moses wrote about God. Moses wrote what God said, God commanded, God created. So when Jesus claims, Moses wrote about me, he is making this shocking claim. Everything Moses said about God is actually pointing to Jesus himself. That means the law Moses delivered, Jesus is law. The God who spoke from Sinai. Jesus the Creator in Genesis. Jesus the one who gave the 10 Commandments. Jesus the one who freed Israel from Egypt. Jesus the one who gave the Passover lamb. Jesus the rock that followed them. Jesus the angel of the Lord who carried God's name. Jesus. If that's not true, then Jesus is lying. There's no third option. Examples from Moses that Jesus claims refer to him, not the Father. These are devastating to the Jesus is only a prophet claim. 1. The God who appeared to Moses in the burning bush. Jesus, Exodus 3:14. I am that I am. Jesus claims this title, John 8:58. Before Abraham was, I am. They tried to stone him because he claimed to be YHWH. 2. The 10 Commandments were spoken by Jesus, Deuteronomy 5:22. These words the Lord spake with a great voice. Jesus says Moses wrote about him. So, the one giving the 10 Commandments is him. Jesus later says, John 14:15, If ye love me, keep my commandments. Not Moses' commandments, not the Father's commandments, my commandments, because he is the Lord who gave them. 3. The Passover lamb. Jesus, Exodus 12. The lamb had to be spotless, slain, and its blood saved Israel. John 1:29. Behold the Lamb of God. 1 Corinthians 5:7. Christ, our Passover, is sacrificed for us. If Moses wrote the Passover lamb prophecy, and Jesus says Moses wrote of him, then Jesus is the God who designed the Passover. 4. The rock in the wilderness. Jesus, Exodus 17. Israel drinks from the supernatural rock. Paul says, 1 Corinthians 10:4, that rock was Christ, not symbolized Christ, not represented Christ, was Christ. So the God who gave Israel water was Jesus. 5. The bronze serpent. Jesus, Numbers 21:9. Moses lifts up the serpent for Israel to live. Jesus says this refers to him. John 3:14-15. As Moses lifted up the serpent, even so must the Son of Man be lifted up. Jesus says Moses wrote this about him, not the Father. 6. The Creator in Genesis. Jesus, Genesis chapter 1:1. In the beginning God created. John chapter 1:3. All things were made by him, referring to Jesus, Colossians 1:16. By him were all things created. So Moses writes, God created. Jesus says Moses wrote about him. That makes Jesus the Creator. 7. The prophecy of the prophet. Jesus, Deuteronomy 18:18. God says he will raise up a prophet like unto Moses. Jesus says Moses wrote about him. Acts 3:22. This prophet is Jesus. So Moses' prophecy about God's chosen prophet was a prophecy about Jesus, the argument that no skeptic can escape. If Moses' writings are about God, and Jesus says Moses wrote about him, then only one conclusion remains. Either Jesus is God, or Jesus is lying about Moses' writings. There is no neutral ground. You cannot say, Jesus is just a prophet. Jesus is just a messenger. Jesus is a created being. Jesus is not divine. Because that would mean Jesus lied about Moses. And if Jesus lied, he is not a prophet. He is not a teacher. He is not righteous. He is not from God. Skeptics must choose. Jesus is God or Jesus is a liar about Moses. There is no middle option.